feel poor.
If you are a car or motorcycle enthusiast in the United States, there is one road that comes up in conversation more than any other. US Route 129, otherwise known as the Tail of the Dragon. Beginning in Deals Gap, the road contains 189 curves in 11 miles as it straddles the border of North Carolina and Tennessee. I can now say with confidence that I rode it, I didn't crash, and I cannot wait to go back. I grew up in northeast Georgia. Where I'm from, if you cannot take a back road doing highway speeds, you can't drive. This is just a fact. Speed limits back home are less of a rule and more of a polite suggestion, and only taken seriously when blue lights and sirens are nearby. US 129 is different. The speed limit on the Tail of the Dragon is 30 miles an hour, and for the first time in my life, I genuinely respected it. Not because I was told to, but because the road demanded it. The elevation changes mid-corner. The grade shifts right underneath you. You commit to a line and you live with it. There is no correcting halfway through. This was the first road I have ever driven where I'm glad I didn't throw caution into the wind. I am not going to pretend I rode this perfectly. There are a few moments where I bob back and forth as I attempt to determine how far to lean into a curve. But I did make one true mistake. There is a moment in this footage, you will see it, where I drift over the center line. I want to be honest about that. What happened was this. A very experienced rider came up behind me, full gear, clean lines, clearly knew what he was doing, and riding a very nice bike. I became aware of him. That awareness turned into self-consciousness, which turned into tension, which then crescendoed into carelessness. I also ride a bike that is a little small for me. I know that, and while I do not use it as an excuse, because excuses do not mean anything when you are on the wrong side of a double yellow, it is a factor I'm working on. That moment was a reminder that the road or other vehicles do not negotiate. You either respect it or it corrects you, and I got lucky, and I know that. On a more positive note, I want to talk about leaning. When I first got my bike a little over a year ago, I was terrified to lean. I would take corners as slow as a grandmother would. But as I've gotten better at riding and more comfortable with the idea, I've gotten a lot better. Now I make full use of all the surface area of my tire and not just the middle of it. I do not show it in this footage because quite honestly, you can't hear it. But there were a couple of times where I was not prepared for the elevation change or the camber of the road in some curves, and I ground my foot pegs straight into the asphalt. At the time, when it was happening, I didn't even notice it, to be honest with you. As silly as that sounds, even my boot caught some of the asphalt, and it gave me a little tug. And since I was still on the bike and I didn't feel any pain, I honestly didn't think anything of it in the moment. When my friend and I finally got back home, many hours later, I looked down and looked at the bottom of the foot peg, and you get what you see here. And I died of laughter. I don't know why, I just found both the image and the idea absolutely freaking hilarious. But now, onto the cars. One does not simply ride the tail of the dragon without encountering some absolutely remarkable pieces of machinery. Sure, there were more low-key vehicles, such as minivans and your everyday passenger cars. There was even a Ford Maverick rocking some steelies. There were a plethora of motorcycles, from sport bikes to kitted-out adventure bikes to gorgeous and shining American Harleys. In the parking lot at Deals Gap, there were also some homemade monsters I regrettably did not get photos of. This included a turboed LS-powered Nissan 370Z and a crazy contraption which began life as what might have been a Mazda Miata, but for the life of me, I couldn't tell. One thing that genuinely caught us off guard were the Germans. They were everywhere. Golf, 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 Porsche, golf. I even think I saw a rabbit at one point, and then even more golfs. It was genuinely interesting to see. I grew up near Helen, Georgia. Around Oktoberfest, there is always a German car meet in the fall. So seeing a bunch of German cars clustered together is nothing new at this point. But this was like a giant coincidence. I don't think there was an official car meet or anything. It was just a bunch of guys who loved their cars on the road. And honestly, that was pretty cool to see. Additionally, being able to pass over $1 million worth of cars along the road at the same time just has an amazing feel to it. It really does. Somewhere around the halfway point, my friend guided us off the road to rest, communicate, enjoy the sunshine, and observe a sticker-bombed park sign.
Well, did you have fun, sir? I did, in fact, have fun. Okay, cool.
Make sure to drink water. Seriously. Dehydration and high speed is a bad combo. Hydrate or dihydrate. This is a threat and not a warning. After my friend and I finished our break, we turned around and tamed the dragon in the opposite direction. This ride was a bit easier. Halfway through, we got stuck behind a line of cars who refused to go faster than 5 under the speed limit. While I did respect the safety, I was also a bit disappointed that I didn't get to go any faster. We decided not to take a break once we got back to Deals Gap. We just began our descent down the mountain and on to our next destination. But the story doesn't end there. As has become tradition, we found a dirt road. I want to be clear that this is no longer an accident. My friend and I have now been on enough trips together that finding a dirt road on street bikes is simply part of the itinerary. It is not planned, it is not discussed, it just happens every single time. The forest up here is genuinely gorgeous. I used to live in Phoenix, Arizona. While the desert is beautiful in its own unique way, I always longed for the bright greens these mountains provide, where green and blue meet in unison and form a perfect horizon. I will say this, I was nervous. I'm always nervous riding a street bike on a dirt road. Not nervous enough to not do it, but just enough to watch the speedometer. My bud and I went up a mile or 3 before deciding that a hot meal was calling our names. We turned around and began the short trek back down the mountain. At one point, we pulled over to let a 4Runner from Indiana, of all places, pass us. It's a gorgeous 4th gen, built for much rougher terrain, passing 2 idiots on street bikes who had absolutely no business being up there.
Hey, it is a 4Runner.
He waved, and we waved back.
From Indiana, holy shit.
My friend and I rode back down to the main road, and that was that. The dragon was vanquished. This road lived up to every bit of its reputation. It humbled me, it pushed me, and it sent me home a better rider than when I had arrived. If you ride and have not been, go. Respect the road, respect the people on it, and enjoy the sights. We will be back, probably with more bikes, definitely with better lines, and almost certainly with another dirt road we did not plan. Thank you for watching.
All right.